Welcome back to another Saxton podcast. It's been almost 2 months since we spoke. It's good to be back on the air. Good to be talking to you, Deuce. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to be back. Getting to the best time of year for sports, so I'm ready to do a bunch of these.
Was just about to say that as I look at the calendar. Last weekend we had a soft start to college football with the game in Australia, but this week we get into it. We'll have a preview coming up, but today we're going to talk about golf. Let's talk about the majors. The last time we spoke, we previewed the British Open, but now that all four are complete, give me your general overall thoughts on the year.
Pretty good year for majors. I thought we saw some pretty good champions. If you take a look, Danny Willett winning the Masters, obviously DJ winning the U.S. Open, Stenson winning the British Open, and Jimmy Walker winning the PGA. All pretty good players. All have been, inside the top 20 in the world the last year or so. So I think we got some good major champions. I thought the venues were just okay. I thought Oakmont played very well. I think that was the best one outside of the Masters this year. Baltusrol, I was excited for, but didn't really excite the masses, I don't think. I still think the PGA needs to take a look at their format, the dates, the courses. They need something different, something to get fans more excited, because it kind of left a bit of a taste in my mouth to end the major season.
I agree. The TPC, the players, almost seems more of a major than the PGA. Is there anything that you could suggest or would recommend the PGA doing to strengthen the major feel to the PGA Championship?
I mean, I like the fact that they do let the 20 PGA Tour professionals in. I think it adds a little something different. They're the governing body of that event, so 20 guys I don't think really makes a difference in the field. I'm going to keep going back to either format or venue. Either take it to some venues that the everyday golfer knows and loves, maybe abandoned dunes rotation, something like that. Maybe the guys beat it up and they kill it, but it would be fun to watch. I'm still a big proponent of going to a match play for the PGA. If you did 2 rounds of stroke play and then you got it down to X amount of players, 32 or something, you go to a match play, I think that would be fun to watch. I know the PGA Tour would never do this because it's their flagship event, but I almost think the players should just be the PGA Championship. I think it would benefit both parties. I think, like you said, that event is usually one of the better ones of the year. It draws a great field. It's the most prize money. Just combine them at this point.
What about if they permanently moved the PGA Championship, kept the format as it is, and moved it permanently to the West Coast so that we had primetime golf all the time for the PGA? Would that enhance it?
Love it. I think that's a great idea. I've never met a golf fan that dislikes primetime golf. So, while there aren't as many great courses on the West Coast, I don't think, me personally, you have some, LA Country Club, you could do it at Riviera. Like I said before, I have no problem with it going to abandoned dunes and you play 4 rounds there. People would see it on TV. It would look great. Yeah, the weather might not be 100% what you want it to be, but you'd get primetime golf. You get a course where people can go play themselves, something interesting, something different.
While we're on the topic of the majors, anybody not winning this year or not playing as well as we may have thought surprise you?
Obviously, Spieth's collapse at Augusta, it was surprising. I don't think he's had his A game all year. So, and after last year, I don't think you can call, you can't expect that again. So that, to me, that wasn't that surprising. I think in our yearly golf preview, I said he wouldn't win a major. I have to go back and check, but I think I said that.
You did, correct.
I think Jason Day is a little bit surprising. I think he pressed a little bit. His first rounds at each major, you could tell he was almost trying too hard, and then he would claw his way back in. The surprise to me is Rory McIlroy. I just don't know why. I mean, I know what's wrong with him as punter, but I thought he was in line for a huge year, and it just hasn't happened.
Perfect segue to the next question. What is wrong with Rory McIlroy's putting?
Well, now it looks like he's kind of, to quote Tiger, it looks like he's stuck in between two patterns. I know he was a Dave Stockton disciple, kind of, that was his teacher for a couple of years, and he was in the camp of letting the lead wrist never fold and almost pushing towards the hole. And now he's going with a new putter since Nike has decided to stop making them. He's gone back to a Scotty Cameron. This time he's a mallet style. And now it looks like he's trying to release the putter more. So I think he is kind of in between two methods now. And he just needs to get on the greens and feel it. I know it's easier said than done, speaking from experience, but just go ask Brad Saxton for an hour lesson. Get one of the best putters of all time to just teach you the basics again.
There's a guy in a barn in Wisconsin that I'm sure could help him out.
There you go. I'm sure if you ask Tiger nicely too, maybe he'd give you a couple little tidbits because he's not doing anything right now. So there's a couple of guys out there that I'm sure would offer up 3 or 4 things, and it would make a world of difference quickly.
I didn't have this in the notes I sent you when we were going to go over what we were going to talk about today, but you had sent me a video of Tiger and Steve Scott in the USAM. Can you believe that was 20 years ago?
No, I mean, looking at him, yeah, I can when I see it, but it doesn't feel like that long ago. It doesn't feel like we've seen Tiger for 20 years. I guess when you think back to 8/14, 2005 Masters, maybe it does, when I think about it like that.
That doesn't seem like 11 years ago either.
A lot of life has passed.
And a lot has transpired in Tiger's life, obviously.
Yeah, good and bad.
He certainly has worn 20 years on his face.
Yeah, he's lived life to the fullest in those 20 years, I think.
Moving along, your thoughts on the Olympics and the golf that transpired and everything that surrounded it.
A lot of talk about the Olympics. There were journalists put themselves on one side or the other, either backing it or backing the players that didn't go. I thought it was great. I thought the golf course looked great. I thought the golf course played awesome for that event, especially the closing stretch, 15 through 18. Great. It was almost a match play scenario, and those last few holes were so risk-reward. It was great. I think you saw on the podium with the gold, silver, and bronze, the caliber of players that it brought up. I think it was a big success. Even with the women's, too. I think that was big for the women's game, especially overseas.
The format for the Olympics okay, or do you have suggestions for 2020?
I don't get why it's not a team event. It doesn't make sense to me that there's 4 American players, but you're all playing separately. I'm not sure how you would do a team event, really, because some of the smaller countries won't have the pool of players to pull from. You'd be leaving countries out based on the qualification process. You got to have a certain amount of world ranking points. There's got to be a way, though, to tweak it, somehow get it to like a 2-man country representation match play thing, because I think that would be more compelling.
Yeah, I don't understand why they couldn't have, for Europe and for American countries, why they couldn't have more than one team. Other events have more than one team in the relays, in the swimming, in the beach volleyball.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of tweaking to the qualification process where you make it multiple teams for countries that have more than 2 participants, or just narrow it down to 2 guys for that country, whatever. I think you got to get it to where it's a team event.
Do you think it was good enough that any of the guys who skipped out have regrets?
Yes, 100%. I think definitely there's regrets. Rory might not care as much, but I think Spieth definitely regrets it.
And you think we'll see it in 2020 again?
100%. I think you'll see all the big names there.
We're in the midst of the FedEx Cup. Why don't you set the table right now where we're at with one event down?
Yeah, Barclays last week up at the Bethpage Black. Great event. Course looked phenomenal. Me and you both played there, 3 or 4 years ago now. Monster of a golf course. It looked way better on TV than when we saw it. Obviously, they got it in great shape. Patty Reed, your champion, he's quietly building himself a nice little resume. He needs to put some major championship finishes on the board, but he certainly knows how to win when he puts himself in that position. Ricky Fowler, now 0 for 4 with 54-hole leads on the PGA Tour. He seems like a guy that enjoys being, 4 or 5 shots back and then putting up a number and letting guys chase it rather than being the chased. So that's something to watch, I think, for the next couple of years going forward. He'll have to shed that monkey. So we head to Boston this week, TPC Boston for the Deutsche Bank, loaded field. And you got to get inside the top 75 this week to move on to Crooked Stick next week.
One question before we get to the Deutsch. Did the course at Bethpage look better because there was PGA Tour players all over the place and not guys in jean shorts and tank tops walking with pull carts?
A lot less elbow braces last week. That could have played a role in it. Yeah, I admit that. The grass on the greens looked phenomenal last week. That was the big difference to me. But yeah, there was not 40,000 New Yorkers on the hole in front of us taking 4 hours to look for their ball on a par 3. So that probably had a lot to do with it for me.
One other question before going to the Deutsch that we discussed, texting back and forth. How many changes or how drastically different will they have to set the course up for the Ryder Cup in 2024?
I thought about the same exact thing Sunday when I was watching. I think they're going to have to make it easier because some of those middle holes, kind of the 9 through 16 stretch, are just brutally hard. They just kill guys. And if they do leave it the same, maybe they will. I think it kind of depends on who's captaining, who's on the team. Obviously, the U.S. captain will get to set up the course, so we'll kind of see what our team is made up of. But those holes are so hard, you're going to see pars win on, 13, 14, 15, 16. Pars good almost every hole.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the captain will be Phil Mickelson?
I would say, if I had to put a percentage chance, I'd say it's 75%. I think it depends on how he plays the next 2 seasons, because if he wants it, he could probably be the captain in 22. Now, Phil's a smart guy. He knows he'll have his pick of wherever he wants. I'm assuming he'd rather have the 24 at home in New York, and I think you might see Stricker in 22. But, you never know with Phil. There could be, if we get beat again this time, I think we could get into that scenario where, hey, Phil, you go play for 2 more years if that's what you want to do, but you're going to be the captain the next 4 Ryder Cups. We want some continuity.
Do you expect that will be a hostile environment for the Europeans to walk into?
Someone might get a glass bottle thrown at their head on the opening tee. The stuff that guys were saying just at a FedEx Cup event this week was hilarious, and I feel bad for the Euros come 2024 because it's going to be ridiculously bad.
Back to the FedEx and where we currently stand. You had mentioned top 75 will move on. Any big names in danger of not getting inside the top 75?
Yeah, there's some names. Your boy Steve Stricker's sitting at 97th right now, so he needs to have a good week. Jim Furyk is at 84. He needs a good week to move on, but obviously he needs a good week to justify any type of captain's pick that he might get. There's some other middling names, Russell Henley, Patrick Rogers. They're on the bubble. They're right around 75. Webb Simpson's at 74. Once you start getting any higher than that, those guys are probably pretty safe unless they really miss the cut by a lot. But Stricker, Furyk, those are the 2 that stick out to me that need to have a good week.
Any names you're watching somewhere in the 20 to 30 range right now that need to have a big week to put themselves in position for the final 2 weeks to have a chance at winning this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. Bubba at 19, Kuchar at 23, Jimmy Walker at 25, Sergio Garcia at 28, Daniel Berger at 30. There's tons of names. Bill Haas 36, Tony Finau 37. Tons of names that stick out. I think there are two to me in the middle range that we're accustomed to seeing vie for the Tour Championship at the end. Justin Rose at 45. Now he's missed some time with injury this year. He clearly needs to get on the pedal if he's going to get to East Lake. And then Rory at 38. Now Rory won a Crooked Stick back in 2012, I think it was. So that's where they go next week. He's won at this course, TPC Boston. So he's had success on these two courses. It's just back to that point. He's got to start making some putts to do anything. So we'll see. But those two guys got to get something going to get inside the top 30.
Any other FedEx notes for us? We'll be doing the preview later this week. You give us your pick then. But any other notes from the FedEx?
Nope, nothing for the FedEx. Just the course rotation this year. I think Bethpage was a great choice. They're going to host the PGA Championship in a couple of years. And I think Crooked Stick, now of course many people know out in Indiana, is going to look good on TV next week.
Looking at the calendar, August 30th, we're exactly 1 month away from the Ryder Cup, which I think is one of the greatest spectacles in sports.
Oh, yeah.
The Europeans made their final 3 picks today in Keimer, Westwood, and Thomas Pieters. Your thoughts on those 3?
Yeah, so they're going to have, I think, 6 rookies. So the Westwood Keimer picks, I think people kind of saw coming, especially with Clark as the captain. He's been around those, especially Westwood. I think they're best friends. So you can kind of see those picks coming. Westwood's overall record, 20, 15, and 6. He's a really good foursome and 4-ball player. Still a really good ball striker. So I think he was an obvious pick. Keimer, I don't think he was as obvious. He has not played as well, and his record is kind of middling, 4-3-3. But he's one of those guys that was on the Medina comeback team, so sort of makes sense. Needed another veteran. Not sure where else, maybe besides Graham McDowell, Luke Donald, you would have gone for a veteran. So Keimer, the other vet they needed to pair with one of the 6 rookies. And then Thomas Pieters, tall, long-hitting Belgian kid, was a stud at University of Illinois, has taken over the European Tour this year, 3 wins, including a come-from-behind win this past week, which I think basically got him on the team. Russell Knox was going to be on the team, I think, who won a Travelers this past week, and Pieters' win just bumped him off, I think, slightly. I think that the course probably played some type of role in that. Hazeltine is a long golf course, 7,600 yards. Pieters is one of the longer players on the European team, whereas Russell Knox is more of a Jim Furyk, Steve Stricker, Zach Johnson type of a player.
So in your mind, it came down to Knox and Pieters for the final spot?
Yeah, there were some rumors that Luke Donald was going to get the nod, but you can't pass up 2 guys that are winning multiple wins this season for a guy that hasn't won in 3 years.
Was there any other names in the discussion, other long shots, I guess you would say? It seems Pieters and Knox would be the 2 favorites for that final spot, but anybody other than Donald in the discussion?
I would assume Graham McDowell might have gotten talked about. Hasn't played as well, even though he won earlier this season in Mayakoba. Has kind of fallen off a little bit, but kind of that bulldog, short game, guy that wants to win no matter what. I think he had to have been talked about.
Now that the European team is set, your thoughts on how it looks on paper?
I think they look pretty good. Some people might disagree with me, but I think they have a lot of good players. If I was Darren Clark, I would hope that Henrik Stenson kind of sits out the rest of the FedEx Cup and gets healthy. He withdrew this past week with kind of nagging knee injury. But that combination of Stenson and Rose last Ryder Cup was just unbeatable. I think some of the new guys are going to surprise the American fans. Danny Willett, Andy Sullivan, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Thomas Peters, those four to me stick out as guys that I wouldn't want to play against. I think they're going to cause some issues for us. The one weak link, if he had not made enough points, he's been struggling pretty mightily lately, is Chris Wood. I think you'll see him the least on this team. I mean, he might sit a couple of matches, 2 or 3 of them.
It always seems when you look at the Euros on paper, they have guys who know how to putt and put it in the hole.
I think this might be, now obviously Rory struggling with the putter. Westwood, never been a good putter. Stenson's had a good year with it, but notoriously that's his weak part of his game. Same with Justin Rose, that's the weak part of his game. Keimer, Garcia, similar things. But it always seems like those guys just make the putts when they have to, especially guys like Westwood and Garcia. When it's Ryder Cup time, they just go in. So the Euro team on paper always looks the same to me. You kind of throw the stats out the window with them. I think the Americans are more where you got to look for the stats.
To the American team, where does it currently stand? Who's in? Who's on the outside looking in right now?
So the American team, the top 8 were solidified this past Sunday after the Barclays. If Fowler had finished in the top 3, he was the 54-hole leader, so he had a good shot at it. He would have been on the team, and he would have knocked Zach Johnson out. That did not happen. Zach Johnson now in the 8th spot. Snedeker, Koepka, Jimmy Walker, Patrick Reed, lefty, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, automatically qualified on the team.
The final, 3 picks will be made September 12th. Is that correct?
That sounds right. And then 1 pick after the Tour Championship.
Who has the inside shot at those 3 captains picks?
Oh boy,
the early picks.
Who knows? Currently, Bubba is 9th, JB Holmes 10th, Fowler 11th, Kuchar 12th, Piercy 13, Haas 14, Furyk 15, Daniel Berger 16. That list is long. They're all deserving. Who knows where Davis Love is going to go? I have to believe that half of the camp is split. Half probably wants the old veterans, Furyk, Bubba, Cooch. And I would assume there's got to be a faction of the committee that just wants to get that group of Ryder Cuppers out the door. I think if Zach Johnson had missed automatically, he'd be out as well. I think there's a part of the committee that wants to go Fowler, Daniel Berger, Justin Thomas, and then maybe 1 veteran like Fowler. You know, he's not a veteran, but I could see something like that happening. But I think the more likely scenario is a split with kind of Bubba, Fowler, Kuchar, and then maybe 1 young guy like Daniel Berger.
How about, just for fantasy purposes, give me your ideal U.S. team for a Ryder Cup to get us to cut back.
Oh, man. Start from the top?
Yes, all 12. Give me 10 to 12 guys.
I mean, I like some of the names that are on the list. I like Dustin. I like Spieth. So there's 2. I like Patrick Reed. I know some people don't like him, but I'm a big Sneds guy for the Ryder Cup. I want someone that can putt like that. So I'll take Sneds for 4, Koepka for 5. Give me Fowler. I'm not a huge Fowler fan, but Ryder Cup he seems to turn on a little bit, which would be 6. Daniel Berger would be 7. Justin Thomas would be 8. How about Billy Horschel? I know the guy can't putt. He's a whiner, but seems like he would be dripping in red, white, and blue. This is a homer pick, but Russell Henley I think would be a good Ryder Cup player. Really good driver, really good putter. I think that's big in match play. And then for shits and giggles, why not Tony Finau? I mean, he'll just hit it 70 yards past everybody and take your chances after that.
Do you feel that the captains of late are too stuck on the old regime and not willing to give some of these younger guys a chance?
Yes, I think there is something to be said for the experience, but at some point the experience has to turn into scars, especially for, Tiger, Phil, Felix, Stricker. I would throw in Zach and Bubba into that too. I mean, they've been on 3 losing teams, so I'm fully ready for pushing out that old group and just giving it to the young guys and letting them go. Maybe the first hole or two would be a problem, especially if their first Ryder Cup was in Europe. You got to think, though, they're going to settle down eventually. So why not let them just go attack? If you're the captain, just tell them, let's go make birdies. Go do what you do best. Don't play it safe. I would love to see the young guy. I would be president of this campaign. I would love to see all the young guys just go over there and hit driver everywhere and put some pressure on the Euros, because that's what I think we're lacking. The Felix, the Zach Johnsons, Steve Strickers, they all are playing for par. No one's hitting driver down the throat over there.
Anybody outside of the names you mentioned? I know Finau was probably the guy furthest down the list, but anybody else down the list that could possibly make a case to get on the team? Or at least throw his name in the hat?
I think we're kind of looking, you kind of asked me to predict the next 2 weeks, which I will gladly do. I think there's 2 names in the 20s right now that might throw or force, 3 guys that might force their names in 25, 26, 27, actually, which is ironic. Justin Thomas, I think, is going to force his name in. Kid kills the ball. He has good relationships with half the guys on the team, so he makes an easy partner. Spieth, Fowler, to be specific. Gary Woodland's an interesting name to me. He's starting to play very well. He's back with Butch. He's hitting it great. He just needs to putt a little bit better. And I wouldn't be shocked if he had a couple of good finishes here the next 2 weeks. And the guy behind him, he's starting to play better. And we all seen it when he gets hot. He stays hot. And that's why they made this rule where the captain gets 1 pick now after the Tour Championship. It's called the Billy Horschel rule for a reason. He's been sneaky the last 2 weeks. He had a top 5 at Wyndham, and he had a top, I think he was T14 this past week at the Barclays, led the field in greens and regulation. So I think Billy Horschel's going to have a good week again this week. I would not be shocked to see all 3 of those guys force their name into the conversation.
So not only do we have FedEx up for grabs, we have guys playing for Ryder Cup spots. So the next 2-3 weeks should be very interesting.
I think the next 2 weeks for the Ryder Cup conversation alone is going to be great. There's probably 10 guys, maybe 12, on the Ryder Cup list, I think, at this point, which is a ton with only 2 weeks to go.
Lastly, this is probably a topic for a longer discussion, but just give me your general thoughts. Recently it came out that Nike and Adidas are trying to get out of the golf business. Where is golf right now? And to me, it seems like it's fading a little bit in the overall picture. What can be done to try and bring it back?
Yeah, I think it's our generation it's kind of fading with, unless you get hooked on it early. There's just so many other things to do, especially digitally. The kids of our generation got hooked on video games or computer games or whatever instead. It's too expensive, I think, one, especially greens fees. Now, I know it costs money to maintain those courses, but, and some people will disagree with me on this, I love the movement to the more natural golf course that takes less maintenance. Chambers Bay, Pinehurst, those courses that have that sandy native area, you don't have to spend any time watering. It's natural. They look great, I think. Some people disagree, but it's called a one-line sprinkler system. So basically, they got a line of sprinklers in the middle of the fairway, and that's it. And that dramatically reduces the cost of watering the course. If we can translate that into lower greens fees, I think that might be able to attract more new golfers. Because $100 on a Saturday to play golf at a local course is ridiculous to me. So that's one thing. Now the equipment stuff. the market's saturated. That's too expensive. Nike especially, I can't name one friend that we play with that even owns a Nike club, so I think that was a long time coming. And if you're a shoe and apparel company to start with, why even get into the club business when you can just kill it making golf clothes and shoes? So I think that was a long time coming for Nike to get out of the club making business.
Any other thoughts on golf?
No, not really. I think I said a lot about it.
Well, we will be back later this week, talk about the Deutsche Bank. We got the college football preview coming up. And
Excited for that one.
College football week 1 discussion as well as official picks for the weekend. Back to a clean slate at 0-0. Last year we got off to a late start. We didn't start till week 4 or 5, so these first 4 weeks could be money-making time.
Behind the scenes, the first 4 weeks are usually our bread and butter, so I think we will be all right this year now that we get these weeks in addition to the late season.
Great job by you today, buddy. Looking forward to the next couple weeks of a lot of conversation.
Yes, sir. You too, bud.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
See you.